Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Daily AI Show. We have come to our 2-week pause. Everything is moving very quickly, so we are wanting to just take a little time to review what we have done in the last 2 weeks, what AI has done. So, welcome. You've made it to your Friday AI check-in. And honestly,
Can I take a nap now?
yeah,
Oh,
sometimes the
thank you.
most important thing we can do is just talk it out and pause. In these last 2 weeks, we talked about Ali K. Miller's recommendations for like getting through the fire hose AI cycle without burning out. We also have seen the drop of Meta's Llama 4. We have reviewed all of Google's things up to that point, and new things have dropped. We have gone through OpenAI's model maze. So we're actually going to ask what's actually stuck with us, what's shifting, what's worth paying attention to right now. Um, so it's not your typical like news or headline scroll. That's not what we're doing today. It's our time to zoom out, connect the dots, and bring up ideas that didn't quite make the weekday shows, under the radar drops, the tool anybody's secretly obsessed with. And we want to know what's happening for you all in the chat. You can join us at the stream at the Daily AI Show's YouTube channel. And if you're watching on LinkedIn and you want to participate in the chat, you do kind of have to come to the YouTube channel. So, yeah, what is happening? Andy, what are you paying attention to in these oh, I didn't even introduce us. Yes. Okay. It is April 18th. Yes, it is April 18th. I am joined in the studio by Andy and Jyunmi, and I am Beth. Thank you. And you're watching the Daily AI Show. Here we go. Let's get into it. Andy, what are you paying attention to now?
So where I think we've come is there's an series of releases of models, and we talked just yesterday about the OpenAI models. We wanted to review the whole package. There's multiple models you can use from OpenAI, and some of them have very special capabilities. Others are confusingly similar, and it's not clear which one you should use and where in the environments, whether in the playground or in ChatGPT or via the API, you can use them. And this is confusing to me, so it's got to be profoundly confusing to people who are trying to make a decision about which models to use for which purposes. And we advise companies on what parts of their business processes they can automate and which parts of their team can really take advantage of the more advanced models to support them in literally in decision support and or strategic analysis and so on. And so what I wanted to do is just comment on the need for clear comparison and give kudos to one of our chat regulars here, Gareth, who yesterday sort of vibe coded his way quickly to a model comparison sheet, actually an application where you can kind of scroll through it. So really nice work there. But now I wanted to provide a little more context and just say that, there are certain capabilities. And one of the things that we talked about was on one of the shows in the previous 2 weeks was the new documentation that OpenAI has provided about what the main categories of application in business are. And one of those that, we haven't paid a lot of attention to is data analytics. And so one of the questions I was asking myself was, okay, because I didn't know the answer, what are the best models that include a Python interpreter and have reasoning and can therefore and must also accept uploading complex Excel files, and then would allow that model to analyze the complexity of the interaction of multiple sheets in those files and apply Python code to do analysis and or take actions in the spreadsheets. And those are all little components of, okay, can LLMs do spreadsheet analysis and help me while I'm trying to do the same thing? Which ones can produce graphic visualization, right? Turns out that Claude doesn't do that, right? It cannot present a graphic visualization neatly in the thing, which defies my understanding. But I learned that just in doing this little research for my own part and for my own clients. So I wanted to just say that's something to think about, is we need to have a really comprehensive tabular presentation of which application spaces, whether it's content generation or data analysis, or whichever part of it, if it's automation specifically, which models are best at reasoning through automations and developing those. Claude seems to excel at that, and in combination with N8N. So I am really pleased that Gareth took the step to do that, but I think we need to flesh that work out and really add many more attribute columns to what he produced to get to the real fine detail that'll let you know that, oh, as it turns out, Gemini 2.5 Pro in Google, and in concert with Sheets, has everything you need to do the uploading of an Excel file, convert it to a sheet, open it as a sheet, have Gemini analyze it, produce graphic visualizations from the data on that sheet, or in fact, generate Python scripts that will do analysis of what's happening in the sheet across all the multiple tabs and so forth. And I've never actually practiced that. I don't normally now work in complex Excel sheets, though I've done so before. And so that's an area of experimentation that I want to pursue, just as an example of, this is a complex question that needs people to understand, not individuals to understand it, but it needs people like us to kind of package it all together and make it clear. And maybe we'll build an application that says, if you want to do this in your enterprise, then here are the models that are currently at the state of the art for doing that specifically, because it's a combination of the internal capabilities of the LLM that's powering it. It has to have reasoning, it has to have a Python code interpreter, it has to have image capabilities, it has to be multimodal. And then does it have the tool set that makes it easy for you to do that application in the enterprise? Those are things that the most advanced consultants, I'm sure, have at the tip of their tongue, maybe, right? But the speed at which we're moving and how many different options there are, I doubt that any one person has that natively as an immediate response. It takes some literally deep research as one of the other tools to try to put that all together. So now to close off this particular thread, I just wanted to mention that yesterday, Brian did a very impressive demonstration of O3. And O3 is the latest and most advanced reasoning model from OpenAI. And they just released it, right? We've had O3 Mini, right? And O3 has been available, I think, in an earlier version that wasn't as capable as the full general release of O3 that's now available in ChatGPT. So he did this impressive demo yesterday using interactive dialogue with O3 and developing a cool little self-teaching application around go-to-market strategy. So if you haven't seen that, that's yesterday's show, April 17th. And then I read through what OpenAI's documentation says further about OpenAI's O3 model. It said, this is a step towards more agentic GPT. For the first time, this reasoning model can agentically use and combine every tool within ChatGPT, search the web, analyze uploaded files, use Python, reason deeply about visual inputs, and even generate images in response to those inputs, any of those inputs, including graphic visualizations. So critically, what that means is these models are trained to reason about and use tools to produce your results. And it provides thoughtful answers in the right output formats, typically very quickly, to solve complex problems. And this makes O3 a really important choice, probably side by side with Gemini 2.5 Pro, to solve difficult real world tasks in companies, especially where it requires some level of programming, business consulting, kind of strategy thinking, and creative ideation. O3, Gemini 2.5 Pro, those are really designed to do this kind of work.
Absolutely. And O3 is deceptive in some ways. I don't mean that it is
Not in a
intending
bad way.
yeah, not intending to deceive, but it feels very much when I'm using O3 that I'm just scratching the surface and I'm still trying to figure out like what it's really capable of and how to best use it. I was at a demo yesterday with Rob Lennon, and he was expecting that O3 would not be as good a writer as it was. And so we were going through things and well, let's just test all the models and see. And it's like, wow, okay, that's unexpected. I also want to point out that if you want to look at Gareth's LLM comparison dashboard, I've put the link up on the screen. You can join our Slack at dailyaishowcommunity.com, and we'd love to continue the conversation with you there. Jyunmi, what are you thinking about?
Ooh, I think about a lot of things, Beth. No, I think everybody knows that I like AI and science stories, and we were really pressing up against time on Wednesday, so I didn't get to all of them. I just wanted to make sure everything we were announced that we were covering. But there's a couple of stories that I think are at least get me excited because they're important pieces to the larger puzzle and can help show a clear path to how science applications of AI can directly improve people's lives. So I'll start with the more nebulous one, but it does start to answer a question that a lot of people have regarding AI. And one of them is AI is a bit of a black box, right? We've recently seen how Anthropic has taken a look at the thinking process of their AI, of their 3.5 haiku, I think, and given us some insights on how it processes information, how it gets to an answer, and things like that. But from Osaka Metropolitan University, a team there has created a model specifically to be explainable in its decision making for ship navigation. All right. So this is supposed to decrease human error. It's supposed to raise trust in AI decision making for ship movement, supply chains, and things like that. So this team from Osaka realized that that's one of the hurdles, is opening up that black box, being able to get people to trust this AI is making this decision. Now, this is going to go beyond just shipping. This can be applied to anything that's autonomous vehicles, for example, right? You need to know why it made this decision. Why did it go left instead of right, and vice versa? Why did it stop, speed up, all of those kinds of things. And so the team just created this this AI model for autonomous vehicles, particularly in this case for the for ships, the shipping lanes, which we've already talked about several times, that movement in this space is going to have lasting impacts in just so many different things, such as fuel consumption. That's going to be environmental. Less prone to accidents. That's going to be environmental as well. Less human errors, quicker logistics, quicker moving vehicles. If you know exactly where everything is, you can route them in the most efficient way. So there's efficiencies and, all those kinds of savings there. So while it is not necessarily a really sexy story, it does show that we're moving into these realms where the question of trust and having AI running things on a day-to-day basis is more and more attainable, and it's coming quickly. So I think that's one of the stories that made it really impact over the last week.
So that has implications beyond shipping, right? It has implications in city traffic during rush hour. It has implications on, like, are you aware of the backup on the sidewalk, and therefore you need to let city have a little traffic and prioritize the people moving on the sidewalk so that people aren't spilling out into the street, right? Like, there are those kinds of things that I think are behind the scenes, will change the way that people experience being in a crowded area, right? Because the crowded area is only crowded area is a problem because the crowd isn't given enough room to move seamlessly, and these little tweaks, in the same way that out in the ocean makes sense, right? And with ports makes sense in other venues as well. Very cool.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to take this model and put it into the Sakana evolution blender. Right? It's like, oh, okay, here you go. Brew out a more specific or fine-tuned model for your particular application of autonomous vehicles, right? Things like that. Now the other one, which is going to be a direct application and good for people, is the University of Florida has come up with an open source AI to analyze videos of patients with Parkinson's disease and other movement disorder, and they're calling it Vision MD. This is there's AI in science and there's AI in medicine, and anything that can help heal, improve the lives of people across the board is a really good thing. I think that's AI and good to me. And the fact that it's open source means everybody can apply it. And I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to AI and good is, no, this is not going to be, behind a wall for people, for specific, institutions. It'll be accessible by everyone. So essentially, Vision MD analyzes the movements and are able to provide insights and diagnoses or lead to diagnoses and things like that. So there's high hopes for how accurate and the development of that particular program. But the big thing for me is that it was open source.
That's awesome.
I have a weave off of that, Beth, if I can. Just goes quickly, which is, we talked about, would you trust AI to do diagnosis and treatment on you as an individual, and should you trust it? And so I wanted to use this idea of AIs being able to interpret multimodally lots of different imagery that comes from diagnostic methods like CAT scans and MRIs, etc. But also just raw video, like as people age, the gait changes and you get to this thing, which is an indication potentially of dementia, but probably not. It's just people become sedentary. You get a small injury, it reduces your ability to move. And so the gait moves to kind of a shuffling gait, which is not very effective in balance. And as a result, you're more prone to falling and so on. So AIs could be watching your gait as you age and doing that interpretation and saying, well, you need to follow this exercise and balance and mobility routine now on a regular basis because you're starting to evidence these degradations of your mobility. So image interpretation, and particularly with radiology, is rife with biases. And I want to give you a specific example. So when you get an MRI, the radiology technicians that run that MRI are responsible for looking at the MRI, and they have a lot of practice with that, and they had to go through special training. But their job in the context of at least the United States for-profit medical system is to make sure that they don't miss anything. And so they have a natural bias to flag certain things and claim those as actual artifacts that are not artifacts, but as actual tissue representations that are of concern in your MRI. And so on balance, compared to a practiced, cardiologist who's looking at, MRI images of your heart and, cardiovascular system, for example, or a neurologist looking at an MRI of your brain structures and so on, they're more inclined to put into your health record via the radiology report things that aren't really necessarily health issues.
Mm-hmm.
So that radiologist is not a doctor. They don't have that specific body part training, right? They do the whole thing, right? You're getting an MRI of your foot. They're going to do the radiology report on your foot as well as on your brain. So imagine then instead an AI that's been trained on the specific body part that you got the MRI for, but doesn't have those biases.
Right.
And here's an important thing. Even the let's take a brain scan, for example. The neurologists, when they look at the MRI, they use an interface that lets them navigate through all the slices of the brain. So they can kind of literally scroll through, rising through the brain, which is in the assembled MRI. It's actually a 3D image of the brain, but that's not the way they get to look at it. They can only look at one slice at a time. So they scroll through it and they've got to assemble that in their head. And that's more difficult as a human than an AI, which can comprehend every layer simultaneously, right? So it can see the interaction of each of those slices in the imagery and understand just what the full extent is and the import is of whatever it's identifying as a defect in the tissues that it's examining. So I just wanted to point that out, the limitations of humans based on their inability to actually comprehend as well as an AI will eventually, and also the biases that we have in our structural biases in our system to make sure that humans aren't responsible for failing to identify something. That creates problems for you as a human that I want to get rid of by having AI be more directly responsible for the diagnosis.
That's a really great point. And one of the things that I think it can also hold is, okay, so this is what the MRI looked like 6 months ago when I had the MRI, and this is what the MRI looked like 5 years ago when I had the MRI, and the ability to keep those, comprehend those as a individual dated system, but then across the dates can show that, oh, that thing that you're really concerned about has been there for 5 years. Like, that's not a new thing based on why I'm here with you today, right? That kind of piece, and particularly if it's something that has like, there's present information about it. It seems like a new thing. It seems to match some of the other things that are happening.
I
I think
love that point. I want my AI doctor to be able to look all the way back through my health record in a way that my current primary physician isn't ever going to spend the time to do. Right. And doesn't have the ability to memorize for each one of hundreds of patients what the full history is. So yeah, the AI does.
We talk a lot about the idea that in shopping or in dating or in some kinds of analysis, that our agent will meet your agent and we'll have that conversation. I think that could be really exciting. I realize that's not going to be every doctor. It's going to be a small part of the medical system for a little while, and a little while in AI. Who knows what I mean by that time statement? But it would be very helpful, I think, to be able to have that kind of conversation. These are my questions. I ask them to my AI. My AI medicalizes it and has that conversation with the doctor's medical AI or just any medical AI, right? Like it doesn't have to be associated with my doctor. It just closes the loop if it is, because I assume my doctor will have a relationship with their AI, which is why they're using it, and that can go back and forth. Like the whole point in some ways is to make communication more seamless, right? If AI can understand what I'm asking and then ask it in a way that the doctor can understand what I'm asking and then translate it back, I think everything just gets better. And, you know, appointments take less time, like insurance, and people should be on board with this.
Yes. And I have a little bit of a pushback. It's not really a pushback. I think it's more of an awareness thing, right? In the rush to see if I'll quote Jeff Goldblum's character from Jurassic Park, right? Let us not rush just to see if we can do it, but if we should. I think a lot of what both of you talked about is important, and the ability to analyze a vast amount, increased amount of data that's personalized will provide us great insights. Having a tool that allows us to communicate with that data and use that to communicate in the same understandable method of communication or language with those who are the expertise, our doctor in this case, also very valuable. But I think I've said before is we need to make sure that it's not a single point of failure. It's not we're relying on it. It's enhancing our ability. It needs to be additive, not replacing what we have. I think the larger issues about making healthcare better, that's when you mentioned insurance and all these kinds of things, is AI will make it harder to not switch to a more universal system because it becomes far more efficient. You get far more back than you put in, those kinds of things. I will still want to maintain the relationship between myself and my doctor, again, because I know my doctor, or at least is supposed to, care about me as an individual and my goals. And so we work together to make sure that I can achieve them.
So,
I just don't want a situation where my AI is talking to their AI and that's just back and forth. And then my AI goes, hey, this is what they said. I still want to be interactive with that doctor. I know it might be less efficient for sure, but I don't know if that's just me not changing with the times, but I think there's something there about that interaction level that I don't have that kind of connection with the AI.
I want to say I think that it's important that you have the feeling that you're being cared for, and that's never really going to be delivered by AI. And a human with a really nice bedside manner is going to make you feel better. May even have in effect a placebo kind of effect where
Sure.
your body responds to that in a magical way that the AI and more scientific approach to it would not provide. So I see all that, and I just think we're running into a capacity problem for those doctors who have that ability to deliver that kind of caretaking, and having access to them in a meaningful time frame is becoming more and more difficult and more expensive. And so
Absolutely.
I think we'll have to depend on maybe the emergence of more empathic AIs that kind of simulate the feelings that you would get from a live human who has a great bedside manner. I see
Yeah,
that.
I agree with you. We are definitely reaching a capacity issue for sure. So I'm hoping that the AI and robotic side of things are going to fill up the 80% and I can just get my 20%, because a single doctor can see more people if they're concentrating on the 20% side of
Right.
things, right? So
And the other thing for this, Dustin has said, but are you getting that from today's US healthcare system? And
oh no,
yeah,
I think I've been pretty clear that our current systems are wrong. So for lack of a better term. So yes, there are underlying root issues that must be fixed. I
yeah,
think one of the things that makes me excited about AI is it provides a way so that there isn't any more arguments or excuses to say we can't implement X, Y, or Z.
right,
AI cuts through all that because that problem can be solved. That problem can be solved, right? You
right.
can't tell me no anymore because of whatever made up reason you come up with. This solves it. Yeah.
So one of the things that I can see happening with this that is a circumstance that happens for me periodically is okay. So a medication that I'm on seems to not be doing what it was initially, and so I may need to change a medication. So we're gonna do an experimentation with my body, my chemistry, and uh, and make some decisions about that. Those are done by infrequent blood tests and self-report in a way that I can present in a doctor's office. This is one of those things that like, hey, okay, let's talk it out. What is this experiment? What kind of data would be ideal? You want me to do a 3 times a day check-in? I don't know, test my spit or blood on something that I should go get, right? Like those kinds of things are now, I think, possible in a way that AI can really be the experiment co-pilot, right? Like this is the experiment, and now we can report real data coming back about it, and that stuff starts to get really exciting because then it's personalized, right?
Yeah.
Um, I've had the misfortune to be diagnosed with things that are uncommon, and that I respond uncommonly to medication. So I am often in a position of self-report and making recommendations for my treatment because I'm more expert on my physical experience and mental experience than anybody else. And I would love to have a co-pilot that is like, yes, here's the data that Beth is experiencing, and let's talk about that.
And having a tool that unfortunately might be listened to more, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you. I have big visions for what could be possible, but I'm also very interested in how do you hear me best? I need to say something to you so that we're having a conversation. If you could just let me know what your love language is in medicine, I would be happy to try to speak that, right?
Right.
And if it's 3 times a day check-in data plus blood test, I'm on it, no problem.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
I
it
wanted
looks like
to.
chats with you on here, like Dustin agrees about the advocacy and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree.
So I wanted to mention something that's come up recently, and it relates to vibe coding, and also a trend that we've seen with OpenAI to try to leverage its enormous user base in ways like adding a whole new social network, and now it's going to leverage. It appears it's in negotiations to acquire one of the leading vibe coding platforms. It's called Windsurf. It was previously called Codium, but now Windsurf is, you'll see it mentioned in YouTube videos for anybody who's doing sort of coding using AI. Windsurf is a go-to for many, many coders. And so OpenAI is in negotiations to acquire that. And of course, then it would be built into the OpenAI platform and its
Right.
ecosystem. And so you would have potentially a social network to deliver the real-time information, just like Grok has for, in its relationship with X, Twitter. And then Meta, of course, has WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, all of that data. And OpenAI is saying we can't be left behind in that. So we're going to build our own and just take our population and build it into the intelligent system, like a very different approach, right? Instead of having a standalone social media platform, it's going to be something that, just lives with your interactions with your personal assistant and agent and so on. And you want an application? Oh, just talk to Windsurf, right?
Right.
And that's going to be potentially, if they successfully complete that acquisition, it's going to be a part of that. So OpenAI, again, I refer to them as the big gorilla in the room, principally because they have the large user base that more approaching, let's just say it's on the trajectory to approach 1 billion users. So it's like, it's way, way beyond any of the others. It's going to have all the pieces and parts, and it's going to be you're probably not going to want to give up your subscription to OpenAI because of the comprehensiveness of its services.
I like how diplomatic your description of OpenAI's strategy is. It's, we need to steal developers from Anthropic. That's the strategy. All the developers are on X/Twitter. So let's make a platform where let's make a social media platform where they can distribute information on our platform. Let's put out a model that can, do all of these features that they're using Claude 3.5 Sonnet for, or 3.7 Sonnet for. Use 4.1 instead. Yeah, it's courting the developer demographic for sure.
By the way, speaking of 4.1, I'm still confused about what it is and what it can do that's different from 03, for example. So do either of you have a clear distinction for 4.1? Yeah, go ahead.
So primarily the 4.1 is being positioned as the family of models specifically released via the API for developers to include in their AI products or their AI tools. So you use 4.1 consistently, and that's why they have both a regular, a mini, and a nano to do all of those back-end tasks, right? That like we use for automations. That's just an example. With the amount of calls that are made for whatever the tool is, they're far more efficient in getting those results. Now,
so do you think it's true that that 4.1 will not be a drop-down selection in ChatGPT?
Yes, it will not be a drop-down selection in ChatGPT. They've been really clear about it. It's the replacement for 4.0. 4.0 had 4.0 itself and 4.0 mini, both in the drop-down and the API. This, what they've said is that they've basically continued to update 4.0 so that it has some of the features that they put into 4.1. And they've, I think, deprecated mini. I don't think I see 4.0 mini in my drop-down anymore. So that's what it is. It's their API version, because they're not upgrading the API version in quite the same way, because while the user base is huge, we don't scream as loudly when 4.0 starts responding differently. We're much more flexible about that than developers when like, wait, absolutely not. I need to be able to test it. I need to know when you've released a new thing. Like, you don't update my API, my thing that I'm running through the API key without like giving us plenty of notice on what we think is going on.
Yeah, so
that's why I think that is.
Speaking again about just the catchment of users that OpenAI has, I would say that that's much more on the consumer/prosumer side, for content generation and other applications, and less on the API side for developers specifically. I mean, there may be applications out there that are using the OpenAI API, but largely for content generation. As yet, not so much for development, right? So actual coding development. So it'll remain to be seen whether they can actually compete with Google and with Anthropic specifically for the hearts and minds of the developers out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
and I hope they keep on doing it, because when there's more models like that and they're all vying for your attention, because all you
the
need is
price goes
attention,
down.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I see what you did there. And speaking of, Gemini Flash 2.5 was released last night, late afternoon. So that's another Google dropping things that are key. We did talk about the fact that VO2 has been released, or the Google advanced users of Gemini all I saw things that say all have VO2. I still don't, as part of that account, and it looks like that may happen through May, like mid-May. And when I was doing some research on that last night, basically it seems like when Google releases these kinds of things and rolls them out slowly, that can take about a month.
Mm.
So
And why can't they just authorize all of their waitlist to use it now? If they can roll it out for Gemini Advanced, what can't they? I've been on the wait list for months, Beth.
I
Months.
hear that the Daily AI Show at gmail.com has been approved as a trusted tester.
When did that happen? Did I miss that? Did I miss that message?
You did miss that email.
Okay, well then I gotta pop in there. I gotta do some comparison. I gotta compare it to Runway Gen 4. I gotta run VO2. I gotta get Kling on there. They released a new one. I gotta get the newest version of Pika. Yeah. There's a couple of Alibaba and other Chinese company releases. I don't know if it's a Quen release. I don't know. But there's a whole bunch on there that I need to get my hands on so we can do a comparative analysis. All right, folks, do you want to see a battle royale of video AI?
Yes.
We'll do a what you call March Madness round robin kind of battle royale. What do you think? Yes? No?
Mini series. Yes, I think that's awesome. Okay. Yeah, because Kling also dropped in this past week, maybe last week. Dreamina, which is from ByteDance, maybe, is a like AI influencer lip sync model kind of thing, so that you can you can create an image and then have it sing expressively along to the audio. So Gareth is saying that he's expecting another AI drop. And yeah, we're sort of noticing the pattern that when OpenAI's ChatGPT starts like giving funky errors, like it's not functioning particularly well, that sometimes precedes a drop. And they did say they were dropping this week. That's interesting. I'm curious what would be the next piece.
Right.
Any predictions?
Would it be okay, they released a bunch of model talk earlier. Mm-hmm. So I would assume that it's non-model related, some other feature, perhaps an enhanced canvas, perhaps a better integration with other tools or sources. I mean, these are just building on what they already have. Do you think it would be something completely new? What part of Google Workspace can they not do yet? Because that's where I would go to. What kind of productivity software niche are you filling?
So, we haven't seen it yet, but Workspace Flows is something that's been announced by Google, and OpenAI doesn't have that yet. So that's a possibility.
I think Gareth also just said, or everything hit the fan yesterday and nothing will be released today, because that is not gonna work. Right? That's what we got at the holiday release of like, ooh, it's gonna be a Dolly update, or it's gonna be like all these things, and then it was like, no, we
Or
uh
how about they make an announcement that renames all their models with a better naming
okay.
convention.
They just put it out. If they do that, that's going to be even more confusing, which, is kind of on brand for them. But I do like the flows idea, or the automation idea, because it would be like if they announced like, oh, now we're buying N8N. It's been so popular, we're now going to integrate it into ChatGPT. All right, so we can automate your services, we can build out applications, we can do all of your workspace productivity apps. And add the social network aspect to it. You'll never leave.
And GPT-5 will be fully agentic and incorporate all those tools. And all you'll have to do is speak to GPT-5, and suddenly magical things will happen everywhere in all of your applications.
But hear me.
Like I said, butter your toast, take out your recycling.
Hear me, people. Now let's get some user interface stuff working. If you want me to stay there for the whole time, I want to be able to precede a conversation with like, I want to upload a couple files, I want to do some stuff that I'm not going to be able to do in the voice conversation, right? So I'm going to start, I'm going to type, I'm going to do all the stuff, and then I want to be able to have the voice conversation that's going to go back and forth. I want in the voice conversation to be able to say, that was amazing, write that and expand it, but don't read it out to me, right? Like, I just want that. Go ahead, save that part that we just did, put it in a table, like whatever you want to do. I don't want to have to listen to you read it out to me. Like, and then I want to be able to go back and forth, because that's something that is natural, right? If I'm talking to you, Jyunmi, we come up with a great idea, I go, oh, make notes about that. That was amazing, right? And then we're going to continue talking.
That's a great another product that could add. Is like, oh yeah, now we'll handle all of your meetings, right? You don't need Zoom or Google Meet anymore. I mean, I kind of see them just going, oh, what do people like about Google's applications? Okay, let's make a replacement for that. I mean, that could be a whole department that does that. But I just want to copy paste exact text. And I want to be able to just ask the LLM to do it. I just want simple Ajax 2.0, Web 2.0 features built into your web app. Copy, paste the exact text, not interpret the text, not tokenize it. You have the ability to go, oh, this is the web browser. Okay, Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V. You can do it now. It doesn't all have to go through your compute cycle to then spit it out onto Canva, right? Just all I want to be able to say is, that's great. Copy that to over there, or change it. Those kinds of things, those little elements is all I'm asking for. Until your LLM can do it perfectly, just take advantage of the technology that exists. Yep. That's all.
I hear you. And somehow our look back for 2 weeks has now turned into the airing of OpenAI grievances. So feel free to participate in the chat if that is how you're feeling. I see that we've got a little bit of time left, but we're going to wrap pretty soon. Is there something else in the last 2 weeks that feels really important that we haven't gotten to yet?
Oh, okay. Something important on the chip side. This is, if you haven't been paying attention, there's a massive dislocation of world trade that somehow the United States is responsible for. And one of those things has to do with chips, and advanced chips particularly, because the powers that be have a deep fear that we'll be superseded by China or other countries in the race to be the dominant player in AI. And one of the ways that they can achieve some hobbling of China's efforts is to restrict the availability of NVIDIA's chips. Historically, NVIDIA had hobbled one of its own chips and made it less capable than their normal version sold to other countries. And that was available to China for export. And it represented about $5.5 billion of NVIDIA's revenue that they now can't deliver to China because an executive order eliminates the permission that was previously granted to deliver those chips that they built for China that are not great chips because they've been limited in their capacity. And so NVIDIA, a US company, has to take a $5.5 billion charge because of that single decision. And that has cratered NVIDIA's stock price, I hope temporarily, but just amazing. Like the uncertainty levels that are created by the gyrations of trade policy in the United States in the hands of one man have resulted in trillions of dollars of loss in the market, and now specifically around chips, have hurt one of our key players, the leading company in chip design and manufacturing, not the actual manufacturing, that's done by Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing largely. But NVIDIA is now restricted from selling even those chips to China.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the uncertainty. I think that's that crazy point. I mean, there's a reason why I saw a story about large institutions buying gold, and I was like, oh, that's a signal. Okay.
Well, and this comes back to the initial story that you were talking about, Jyunmi, in terms of the organizing the what did you call it? Container ships. What is that called? Supply chain. Organizing the supply chain and understanding where things are. One of the things that is happening in association with the executive orders and the tariffs and that kind of stuff is that there's just less of those things coming across to the US. And so again, that kind of efficiency will be like needed because the quantities that have been coming across previously are shifting. So even the past is not a predictor of the future. I think we can say that. Like, where is the past a predictor of the future? I think when I turn on my faucet, hot and cold water still comes out. So yay. I'm gonna connect to that as the past predicts the future because there are so many other places. All right. So yeah.
I got one last thing. I got a community question. All right. So for the weekend, your homework community, or please help me out here, has anyone, or do you know of a single board computing device that I know that there's hats that allow you to that are built for AI processing, but has anyone used one of those as a Meshtastic node to provide LLM types of services to the network, or at least to your local network? All right. And I won't provide any more detail than that because anyone who can answer that already know I provided all the information that you need. And if you don't know what that is, then let's have a conversation in the community. I think that'd be a good weekend question. That's what we can call it. The weekend community question.
There we go. Good. That's awesome.
Topic available, discuss.
So if you haven't had enough of us and want more, we are having another episode of the Sci-Fi AI show this afternoon at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. We are talking about e-skin. And it relates to a story that Jyunmi talked about a couple weeks ago in our news show. So we're gonna like double down on that and explore some of the ways that sci-fi talks to us about what that might what that experience might be and where it might lead. So hope you can join us there. We have a conundrum coming out tomorrow, so look for that in your feed on Spotify or on YouTube. Sunday will be the Daily AI Show newsletter, which you can sign up for at thedailyAIshow.com. The Sci-Fi AI Show is at the Sci-Fi AI Show in YouTube, and I think that's what I've got. Oh, so great having this morning with you, or whatever time it is for you. And we hope that we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Aloha.